we got to start with Mamdani. And this guy who's closely linked with radical Islamists, like this imam who testified for the blind sheikh who bombed the World Trade Center in 1993. Mamdani with his arms literally around that guy, calling him a pillar of the community, about to, as of the vote today, we believe, become the mayor of New York City. What do you make of it?
Well, I think it's a disgrace. I think it's a shame. It shows us that, you know, on the right, we were obviously celebrating after Donald Trump's victory, as well we should have, and it was a huge victory. And I think without Trump winning, we'd be in a much worse spot today. But it certainly shows that the fight is not over. That there was a lot of talk, I think, among conservatives, and maybe I even used the phrase of like the golden age. We're entering the golden age. And it's, you know, it's okay to be happy and celebrate. And sometimes you take a little too far and you say things like that. But this is not quite the golden age yet, because we've got a foreign communist from Uganda who doesn't even pretend to like this country, much less love it, who's about to take over the largest and most important city in the country. And on top of that, I mean, this is, you know, if you were to go back, as many people have pointed out, if you were to go back to like 2002, let's say, and stop anybody in New York City and tell them that in a couple of decades, the mayor would be an Islamist from Uganda, who tries to hold other candidates to account for not being able to name a mosque. That, like, not being able to name a mosque and not visiting a mosque is an attack line in a mayoral campaign in New York City. You know, if you were to tell someone that in New York in 2002, they would not have been able to believe it. And yet, here we are.
It's going to happen. I mean, the latest poll from Atlas Intel showed Cuomo within 4, but that poll received some criticism for having too much heavily weighted Republicans and independents, which of course are not the dominant voting bloc in New York. And it's amazing to me that this city, this great city, I mean, honestly, it's America's crown jewel. It's the greatest city in the world, in my opinion, bar none, is about to be taken over by this, yes, communist, potentially radical Islamist. I mean, he's a wolf in sheep's clothing, Matt, because he's smiley. He's very, very good at social media. He knows how to talk a good game. We aired a SOD on our morning AM update show today of him being asked about the fact that Hakeem Jeffries, moments after he endorsed him, said, but is he the future of the Democratic Party? No. And the reporter asked, hey, what do you think of that? And he said, oh, you know, I'm just focused on campaigning right now, working out my anxiety before Tuesday's vote by doing last minute canvassing. That's all. Very good answer. Very smooth, smiley, focused relentlessly on affordability, which is an issue in New York, like in all major cities. And the people, especially the young people, are buying it hook, line, and sinker.
They are. And what it shows you, of course, is that the Democrat Party has not moderated at all. They haven't backed down from any of their craziest positions in the slightest bit. They're more radical than they've ever been. They're more violent than they've ever been on top of it. But I think Mamdani represents that. And, you know, you mentioned he's potentially radical Islamist. And you know, this is one thing that's confusing for a lot of people, because you see that he's Islamic, you know, he's from Uganda. And you hear conservatives sometimes worry about the importation of Sharia law into America. But then you see, well, he's a far left radical. I think he showed up at a gay club in New York City a couple of days ago. And so you see that and say, oh, this is not a guy who represents Sharia law. Well, he might not himself personally, because he is a far left communist, but he's going to open the floodgates even more to immigrants from that part of the world. And that's how you end up kind of with both. And I mean, already in New York City, I think it's 40% of the city was not born in this country. Not even that they're immigrants, second generation immigrants, but 40% of the country was not, of the city was not born in the country. 20% are not proficient in the English language. And that situation is going to get much worse under Mamdani, and intentionally so. And then at what point, like at what point do you get to a point where it just doesn't work anymore? Where, like, how can you function as a community, as a city at all, if you can't do basic things like communicate with each other? And, you know, I've raised this point. A lot of people have raised this point because it's very relevant to this. I mean, this is how Mamdani is going to win. He's going to win primarily because of all the foreign-born left-wingers who are in
Yes.
And the response has been, well, New York City has always been that way. Go back 100 years and you'll find that 20% or more, struggled with the English language. And even if I were to accept that that's true for a second, this is it's a very different kind of thing. Yeah, you go back 100 years, 150 years, and there were a lot of immigrants, but the immigrants now are different in two ways. I mean, number one, these are third world immigrants from, largely from the Muslim world. That was not the case. That was not the case 100 years ago.
No.
And also, this is the most important part. You're bringing in this foreign invasion of people who are not even interested in assimilating into American culture at all. I mean, they actively hate America, and yet they come here. Look at Mamdani. I mean, he can't bring himself to say anything positive about America. All he does is complain about it. He has the gall, he has the gumption to complain about Islamophobia. That was his closing argument. Basically, that's what he spent the last week of his campaign doing, was complaining about Islamophobia, making up this story about an aunt who never existed and felt uncomfortable wearing a hijab on the subway, even though nothing happened to her, by the way, even in his fake story. She just felt uncomfortable wearing it. And somehow that's an example of Islamophobia. And so it's just like total lack of gratitude for the country. When in reality, there was no wide-scale persecution of Muslims after 9/11 at all. I mean, Muslims are safer in this country than they are in most Muslim majority countries. And there's no gratitude for that, no attempt to assimilate. And that's a big difference between the kind of immigration we have today in the year 2025 and the kind that we had in like 1905 or 18.
Mm-hmm. We talked earlier this week about his father, who teaches at Columbia, who wrote a book in which he argues that we need to destigmatize the suicide bomber. That he has to be understood in a new light in modern day America, that he feels they've been wrongfully demonized. The suicide bombers, that's the man who raised the obvious next mayor of New York, unless something dramatic happens today at the polls. It's really outrageous. And to think that apple fell far from the tree is to delude yourself, because the mother, too, has been on record as saying there's nothing American about Zohran. She's very proud. He's not American at all. He was raised in Uganda. He's a Muslim. He's not American. You talk about how a lot of these Muslims, I don't know if they're radical or they're just Muslims, but either way, it's a problem because the tenets of Islam are not consistent with Western civilization. And I'm sorry, but they should not be ascending to our mayors and our governors and so on, because Islam is not consistent with the premises of the West, the basic premises that led to the Bill of Rights here in America. And what you have is this argument about, we're a nation based on immigrants. Yeah, like immigrants like my grandfather from Italy, and then my grandfather on the other side from Ireland, who desperately wanted to assimilate. But if they didn't, then you'd have some guy with an Irish brogue eating a lot of meat and potatoes and drinking a lot. Like, that was the most significant downside to the Irish not potentially assimilating. It's a very different story when you're talking about immigrants from Uganda who are Muslim at a minimum and potentially radicalized Muslims.
Right. And look, America is a Christian country. America was a Christian country at its foundation. It was founded on Christian principles. That's not up for debate. It's just a historical reality. It's a historical fact. And one thing that you can't, I know some people try to argue that and say, well, some of the founding fathers were deists or whatever. And fine, some of them were, but the vast majority of the people who founded this country, the early settlers, the founders of this country, the Pilgrims, going all the way back to the Pilgrims, were Christians, and that's not up for debate at all. But what you certainly can't argue is that they were Muslim. I mean, that certainly is not the case. Okay, so this is not a foundationally Muslim country, and that's why. Look, you go to Dearborn, Michigan, which has basically become a Islamic capital right in the middle of the American heartland. And now if you're in Dearborn, at 5:30 in the morning, you might hear the Islamic call to prayer being blasted by the loudspeakers at the local mosque. And, Mehdi Hassan, I got into an argument with him recently because he said, well, what's the difference? What's the difference between that and church bells? It's no different. Well, there's a couple of differences, Mehdi. One is that they don't the church bells don't chime at 5:30 in the morning. That's one thing. But the other thing is that America is a Christian country. That's always been a part of our culture. Going back to its earliest days, you'd be if you're in your town, in your village, you would hear church bells ringing. It's part of our culture, and the Islamic call to prayer is not. And we shouldn't be shy about saying that.
Not to mention, when the prayers begin, all you hear is Allahu Akbar, which is exactly what the terrorists were screaming as they flew those planes into the buildings on 9/11. That phrase is chilling for many of us who lived through 9/11. But Mamdani is most popular with young people under the age of 34, which is, I think he's 33, who really have no active memory of 9/11 whatsoever, and with foreign-born New Yorkers. So that's who's going to put this guy over the top, unless Andrew Cuomo manages to pull a rabbit out of a hat. Matt, have you seen the ballot that New York City is providing voters? It's insane. I think we made a full screen of it, but if you put it on the board, it shows Mamdani. Okay, we're showing it. So for listening audience, it shows like the first box there, Zohran Mamdani. And then you've got a second box. I can't quite read it, actually. Oh, there's Curtis Lewa in the second box. And then somebody else in the third box. And then a fourth box, back to Zohran Mamdani. And then back to Curtis. And then Eric Adams is there in the top row. You have to go down to the second row where the first three boxes are blank. And then you get to another box, Jim Walden. And then there's Andrew Cuomo finally in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th, 8th slot on there, second row, and then Joseph Hernandez. So just the way this is set up, two opportunities to vote for Mamdani, 2 for Curtis Lewa, 1 for Andrew Cuomo on the second row over far to the right.
Yeah, and that really matters. I mean, it's easy to say that that's nitpicky or whatever. Will that really make a difference, where the names show up on the ballot? But it does matter, and it especially matters in New York City, where, as we just established, like a huge number of the voters are foreigners or weren't born in this country. A lot of them don't even really speak English. A large number of them probably have never voted in an American election before. And so, they're going to go in there, and it's very confusing to sort your way through it. And, it's like the deck is stacked in his favor. Although I will say that I think no matter how the ballot is presented, I think that Zohran Mamdani will still probably win for all the reasons that we talked about. By the way, I also just want to say that, because I've thought a lot about this. I think we all have, about this kind of weird alliance that there is between the far left and Islam. Like how does this work? I mean, why you have the far left trying to import the Islamic world into this country, considering that they ideologically would not seem to have a whole lot in common? But the answer to that, it's kind of a common enemy thing, enemy of my enemy. The answer is that the people that bring it in, like Zohran Mamdani, the one thing they have in common is that they hate white Americans, they hate America generally, and they're anti-Christian, right? So that's what the left has in common with them.
Did you know gold is up around 40% this year? That's not speculation, it's reality. And if a portion of your savings is not diversified into gold, you're missing the boat. Here are the facts. The US dollar, still too weak. The government debt, still growing. This is why central banks are flocking to gold. They're the ones driving prices up to record highs. But it's not too late to buy gold from Birch Gold Group and get in the door right now. Birch Gold will help you convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in gold. You don't pay a dime out of pocket. Just text MK to 989898 and claim your free info kit. There's no obligation, just useful information. The best indicator of the future is the past, and gold has historically been a safe haven. So text MK to 989898 right now to claim your free info kit on gold. MK to the number 989898. Protect your future today with Birch Gold. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.